Bismillah wa salatu wa salam Rasulullah wa ba'd. In the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and final messenger. As to what follows, family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to the Features Live. I greet you all in peace and love and no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So before we begin, again, please like, please subscribe, and please share. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here, and that is no joke. So, family, today's topic and today's family meeting is another important topic, incredibly important topic, dealing with Black men specifically and why Black men are losing economically, socially, and like in every aspect of life. Why is it that Black men are being humiliated globally? And it's not just a phenomenon that's relegated only to the West. We're talking about internationally. And the reason why I chose this topic is I read this article from NPR, and I thought about this article. I just started thinking deeply about this article and the situation with Black people in the West and how Black people act, particularly those who are descendants of slaves, and our mannerisms and whatnot. So when I read this article, it started to make me think, and I started to see like a very wide gap between those Black people who are winning and those Black people who are losing, and the way that they think, the way that they write, the way that they speak, the way that they approach life, and their mannerisms, and how they interact with society as a whole. So this is more of an like it's an opinion piece, but it's based in fact. Okay, it is like an op-ed, but it's based in actual real life information. Y'all hearing me? So I thought about what is it that Black men can change instantly if they start doing this habitually and start uh, implementing this as a part of their daily lives. They will instantly see improvements and changes in their whatchamacallit, their environment as a whole. So let me just pull up this article for you. Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon. I want you guys to see this article, right? And I'm just going to read it briefly. And we're going to go back to the Moynihan report as well, right? So actually, let me start with the Moynihan report, since I got it up here already. Okay, just give me a few moments here. Let's get this up here. So we're going to start with the Moynihan report. And I'm going to read what the Moynihan report says here. Oh, not that one. 1 second. It's a different one. 1 second here. Yeah, this one right here. So I'm going to read from the Moynihan report and what it says specifically concerning the Black family and the breakdown of the Black family. And I'm going to tie it in. You know how we do it here, right? Right? We're going to tie it into what this report from the NPR. Okay, so give me 1 minute. Let me get this report up here. This one right here. That's the one I want. Okay. So we go over here. Where are we? That was the one. Okay. So this is from the Moynihan report. We actually talked about this briefly a couple of weeks ago. About in 1965, a researcher under the Lyndon Johnson administration did this report to basically understand why Black people were pretty much burning the country down, right, in the 60s, right? So he did this report, and essentially he came up with the answer. Like, long story short, his answer was economics plays a major factor. The breakdown of the black family is a major factor, and the lack of equality, equal opportunities, jobs for black men, and these type of things was a major factor. And one of the things he touched up on was the history of black people in the West, and he touched upon slavery, right? So he says in the United States, the slave was totally removed from protection of organized society. Okay. The slave was totally removed from protection of organized society. There's a white man writing this, okay? Compare the elaborate provisions for the protection of slaves in the Bible. His existence as a human being was given no recognition by any religious or secular agency. He was totally ignorant of and completely cut off from his past. Again, he was totally ignorant of. A white man is writing this, and completely cut off from his past. Okay, this is an important point, and we're going to come back to this. Okay, and he was offered absolutely no hope for his future. His children could be sold. His marriage was not recognized. His wife could be violated or sold. Okay, there was something comic about calling the woman whom the master permitted him to live with as a wife, or to live a wife. Okay, in other words, it was a joke. The marriage in the black family was considered a joke. Why? Because those who have dominated us for the better part of 500 years could just have their way with our wives and our children. And there was nothing that we can do about it. There's a book I read. I can't remember the name of the book. Chronicles of a slave girl or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, there's a portion in that book where the author, she outlines the torture that black men went through during slavery. And one of the things that she said was that a man would get tortured so horrifically that he would offer up his own daughters to the slave master in order for them to stop torturing him. You get me? And he could be subject without redress or frightful barbarities. And he could be subject to, without redress to frightful barbarities. Let me get my glasses here, family. Let me see if I can find my glasses. I'm not sure if they're here. It's getting difficult for me to read. I apologize. I should have had my glasses on first. No, I can't find them. Okay, you guys are going to have to bear with my crappy reading right now. But anyways, okay. There were presumably as many sadists among slaveholders, men and women, okay? Men and women, both the white man and the white woman were sadists, as there are in other groups. The slave could not, by law, be taught to read or write. He could not practice any religion without the permission of his master, and he could never meet with his fellows for religious or any other purposes except in the presence of a white. And finally, if a master wished to free him, every legal obstacle was used to thwart such action. This was not what slavery meant in the ancient world, in medieval or modern Europe, or in Brazil and the West Indies. Okay? This right here is basically going to be the bedrock for this advice to black men, going back to this, because this right here, all this, even though this paragraph is short, it has basically outlined the psychology of black men in our society today and why they act the way that they act. You get me? Just this right here. Right, and we're going to come back to it. So now I read this article from the NPR. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a little bit lengthy, right? But I'm going to show you this article, and we're going to come back to the psychology of black men, right? And why they're losing, okay? So let's go back here. So we're going to go back to this NPR article. One second, y'all. Let me pull this up. So, education usually improves health, but racism sabotages benefits for Black men. Okay, so I read through this article. Okay, and from the top it goes, more education typically leads to better health, yet Black men in the US are not getting the same benefit as other groups. Research suggests the reason for the gap the reasons for the gap are vexing, experts say, but may provide an important window into unique challenges Black men face as they try to gain not only in good health, but also equal footing in the US. Generally, higher education means better paying jobs and health insurance and healthier behaviors and longer lives. This is true across nearly all demographic groups. And studies show life expectancy is higher for Black men with a college degree or higher compared to those who have not finished high school. But the increase is not as big as it is for whites. This comes on top of many health obstacles Black men already face. They are more likely to die of from chronic illnesses like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer than white men, and their average life expectancy is lower. Experts point to a variety of factors that may play a role, but many say that the most pervasive is racism. But anyways, it's a lengthy article, and it goes into some detail about racism. But the point is here, family, did you really need an article to tell you that racism plays a role in opportunities for Black people in the West or any other country for that matter? Did you need an article to tell you that, or did you already know? But the point is that over here we see that even it must be recognized that your education level increases even your life expectancy. It increases even your life expectancy. Now, when we go back to the article from Moynihan, and we're talking about Black men, and we couple this with our opportunities, we read in Moynihan that Black people were specifically prevented from education. You see what I'm saying? They were specifically prevented from education. And when they were given the opportunities to get educated, then we see an increase in the quality of life of Black folk. Y'all hearing me? So why is it in 2022 that we have a culture, particularly and specifically amongst Black Muslims, of an incredible lack of respect for our elders and our history? Even though we have an opportunity now to get educated, but we look at our elders as people who are beneath us. We have a type of disdain for those who came before us, particularly from amongst Muslims. We see that the enemy has prevented us from reading, from writing, and even when we read and write, the enemy would rather give opportunities to the less educated from amongst them than the very educated from amongst us. You get me? And our elders haven't gone, I mean, we haven't gone through what our elders have gone through, but you find black folk, particularly amongst the Muslims, and particularly amongst these newer generations, who have a whole hell of a lot of work against the older generation. Like, how is that even a thing? Especially if you're a Muslim, how is that a thing? Y'all hearing me? So now, for example, I told y'all many times that when I came on Facebook, my whole goal behind going on Facebook was to make contacts for business and whatnot, because my Facebook initially, I didn't have any black people on it. Okay, I didn't have any black people. I didn't have any Muslims on it. Okay, it was really just for my family members and business contacts and whatnot. Okay, then I started inviting black people after like maybe 3 years or so, right, of having Facebook and whatnot, and I started inviting some Muslims on, and that's when all the chaos started. I started seeing some incredible shucking and driving and cooning and just chaos, absolute chaos. And I started noticing that there's an element, particularly amongst black folk, where they go on Facebook explicitly to make other black people feel pain. That's their whole goal in life. So they go in with the intention of being trolls and they just want people to argue with and have drama with, and that's all they do. That's all they do on Facebook, day in, day out. You know what I mean? So, anyways, something happened recently where a brother, he posted that he visited some Nation of Islam temple somewhere in Chicago, right? Reaching out to nation and whatnot. And then he was basically giving homage to elders like Sheikh Imam Siraj al-Hajj or whatever. And because he did that, this caused a whole hoopla in the black community on Facebook. And I'm telling you, wallahi wa billahi wa tallahi, as Allah is my witness, I have never, ever, ever seen anything like this amongst white people when I didn't have black people on my Facebook. Uqsum billah, I swear by Allah. Okay? And white people, they have their differences of opinions. But they aren't out to get at each other's throats for a difference of opinion. But there is no way as black folk that we can tolerate as a community the disrespect of our elders. If you disagree with Imam Siraj on some sort of dogmatic thing or whatever, that's fine. It's okay to disagree. But this is what y'all do. This is what black folk do. Okay? I'm going to show y'all something here. Okay? America, the American government, they nuked Japan, correct? Like straight up nuked Japan, right? Sent a nuclear bomb to Japan. Are they enemies now or allies now? Okay. Germany caused World War II, correct? Under Hitler. Are the Europeans enemies now or allies now? They're allies, correct? Black folk, if you differ with one of your elders, you have to be enemies. And meanwhile, the enemy, the real enemy, gets a whole bunch of silence from you. Y'all get me? Imam Siraj or Khalid Yassin or Bilal Phillips or Sheikh Abdul Hakim Quick, whoever it is from our elders, they've been Muslim longer than most of us have been alive. And we're talking about convert Muslims. They grew up in a time when there were no Islamic translations of anything in the West. They grew up in a time when if you were a Muslim, you were considered a cult. Y'all get me? Y'all hearing what I'm saying? So how is it that some 20-year-old or 30-year-old or 40-plus-year-old has the audacity to go in public amongst Black folk to try and distance other Black people who've been doing this Islam thing for decades and decades and decades in the community and have a long resume of work? I mean, a long resume of work. And between Imam Siraj, Khalid Yassin, Dr. Bilal Phillips, Abdul Hakim Quick, between the four of them, the only person that people have ever heard any of them speak against, right? Imam Bilal, he wrote the book against Dwight York. Okay, he wrote that book against Dwight York. Siraj Rohaj, I only ever heard him speak against Wardin Muhammad way back in the day, and Louis Farrakhan. Only. Okay? Abdul Hakim Quick, I never actually heard him speak against anybody, right? Khalid Yassin, I heard him speak against Farrakhan once. Okay? But yet, these guys, they don't have an elder between the youngest in their 20s and the oldest in their 40s. They don't have one single elder they respect, not one. And they want to call you to disrespect your elders. So if this generation now is under the tarbiyah or the cultivation of learning on how to disrespect your elders, by the time these 40-year-olds are become 60-year-olds, what is that generation going to say about these guys? What do you think they're going to say? You think you're going to have any respect to them when they start having gray beards and pains in their joints and whatnot, and they start speaking with cracky voices because of being old and whatnot? You think they're going to have any respect for them? The elders in the Black community that Black people respect are other people's elders, not our elders. Y'all hearing me? And if you cannot respect those who were doing it before you, then how are those who are doing it after you going to look at you with any respect? Because you are teaching the generation coming after you how to disrespect your elders. Eventually, you will be one of them. And let me tell you something. There's a difference between being an elder and being older. Y'all hearing me? There's a difference between an elder and being older. What do you mean, Bilal? Somebody who is the same person making the same mistakes, talking the same way that they were talking in their teens, and now they're in their 40s and 50s with the same mindset and everything. That person is just older. But they haven't benefited from their age at all. An elder is somebody who has benefited from their age. They learn from their mistakes. They have experience. They have knowledge. They have something that they can pass on to the younger generation. Those ones who can't respect people who are older than them or who are elder than them, right, will not be respected when they're older. Y'all hearing me? This right here, because Black people's development has been interrupted by the enemy for the better part of 500 years. And we don't have this line of, you know, unbroken families and whatnot. All we have is a legacy of single motherhood and broken families and all this kind of stuff, right? And when Islam came, particularly I remember back in the 90s when how Islam was in the 90s, and it started changing the minds of the people and changing the development of the people. Who was it that came and kiboshed all that? More foreigners. And who ate it all up? Because they didn't want to listen to their elders. The elders were warning us back then. Oh, well, lying, they were warning us back then. And you can even find the articles from Bilal Phillips and stuff like that. And what the things that he wrote. Back then, they were warning us. Now we have a whole line of disrespectful, loudmouth, unaccomplished, unachieving, unscrupulous youth who got nothing better to do with their time than to lead other unadvised, unmannered youth with horrific advice, absolutely horrific advice. And again, this is not a light thing. This is not a light thing. The disrespect of your elders. Actually, let me read you this hadith. 1 second. Let me try to find it for you. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu he said, "Whoever does not show mercy to our young ones or acknowledge the rights of our elders is not one of us." Hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu. See, it's easy to talk about the past generation if you come up in a generation of Google. You understand? So you can just type in Google translation of this Quran, then translation of this hadith, this sheikh said this, you can do all that. But what you don't know is that there's a long line of Black people, and I mean a long line of Black people, who converted in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and whatnot, who didn't have access to all this. And because of their efforts in advising students to go and study in University of Medina and in Egypt and in Mauritania and Yemen, those people who did not have those opportunities gave the opportunities to that generation that came about to make the translations that you are reading today, and you turn around and use those translations to go and blast the older generations who sent those people overseas to begin with. That's what you're doing. And you expect the rahmah or the mercy of Allah to come down on you? You guys are tripping. You are tripping. The next point is treating time given to you like it's an unlimited commodity that you can waste. What do you mean by that? Like, if you read the NPR article, there are some things that are said in terms of education and opportunities and whatnot. And we as Black people we got to understand that there's no shortage of work in the Black community to be done. We have to understand this concept. Not a single one of us should be bored because we have way too much work to do to be bored. But what is happening, as far as I can remember, way back, Black people have been the number one consumers of entertainment, the number one consumers of television, the number one consumers now of social media, the number one what you call it, number one in entertainment, as I mentioned. If you look at sports, we represent every sport possible. We're now starting to represent hockey. You feel me? We're getting involved in all those things. And at the same time, we are not putting our time, our energy, and the things that will help us as a community. What we do, as I mentioned before, we go online and we start trolling each other for hours and hours and hours. And we believe that we're in the struggle. We say that this type of trolling is a part of the struggle. You're not struggling for anything. I'm sorry. And then what you have now is you get a generation who is easily manipulated because the enemy knows where to find it. The enemy knows you're going to be on Facebook. So all they got to do is put something out on Facebook and you'll spread it. Look what's happening in Ottawa right now. What's happening in Ottawa right now, I mean, I recognize it from day one. These are wartime tactics. How do you know this, Bial? Because I read The Art of War. I've read The Prince. I read what these white folks, what they read. And I know how they think. The way that protest went down was typical Art of War, wartime tactics. Even the protesters, they themselves, they didn't say, okay, we need to abandon the protest. They said that we're going to go into full retreat. That's from the words of the protesters. Y'all hearing me? Meanwhile, Black folk are online day and night. This can actually go to the women as well as the men, but it's even less appropriate for the men to be on social media like that. Women, you can kind of see it because a woman's nature is like, a woman wants attention. You feel me? That's her nature. You understand? So due to her nature, it's going to be difficult for a woman to resist that type of attention. You know what I mean? She'll put on some cute picture or something like that, and then all these dudes coming, oh, you look so pretty, and all. Women are like that, right? But for men, it's incredibly effeminate. When you go on your social media platforms with the sole purpose to go and troll people, that's effeminate. That's like a woman trait. You see what I'm saying? Like we get it. We like, for men, up until now, I haven't seen just a group of Black men who was started specifically with the sole purpose of bashing Black women. You understand? This is something that women do. And we see that Black women, they make these groups with the sole purpose of bashing Black men. And this is something that, again, it started from Black feminism. Black women are only ones who do this out of all cultures, right? And it's from Black feminism. You understand? So when a Black man goes online now, and his only goal is to blast and bash Black women, like, where he learned that from? Gotta be from other women. You know what I'm saying? It has to be from other women. So how do you have time to do that when you know that Allah has ordered us, that we are the men, we are the protectors and the maintainers of the women? How do you have time to go online and do all that craziness? Like, I don't get it. Should you at least be reading a book? Should you at least be trying to get an education and whatnot? You know what I mean? Talking to your kids or whatever. Like in my house, for example, we put a lot of investment in our kids. I mean, a lot. Okay. We made sure we sacrificed, we homeschooled the kids or whatnot. You know what I mean? And alhamdulillah, all the kids are excelling in school. But that comes because we recognize the value of time. You get it? We recognize the value of time. If you're a man and you value your time, then you should be doing something for either yourself, your family, or your community. Not having these long, drawn out arguments on social media. That's crazy. That's crazy. That actually shows what you value when you do that. Y'all hear me? So, and the last one, inability to control your mouth and deep-seated need to let your opinion be heard, one up, or insult other people, which kind of ties into the time factor. But this is something that's deeply ingrained in Black men. Because what you are actually showing people is that the only power you have is to talk. That's it. That's the message that you're sending. The only power you have is to talk. You don't have any other power besides that. And because Black people, by and large, with the social media age, the skill of listening is dying. It's like becoming obsolete. You understand? Listening is a skill. Hearing is a sense. There are two different things, okay? You listen with your ears, not your mouth. You get me? Listening is actually an act that requires for you to absorb information and dissect it in an intelligent manner. It's not the act of hearing something that contradicts your worldview and then trying to make your response brain to mouth, no filter, nothing like that. Instantly, you have to make a response, emotional and stuff. An intelligent person always considers that their point of view may be wrong. You get me? So they listen first and talk later. And what we find now as a culture is that there's no listening happening and a whole bunch of talking over people happening. Because you don't want to hear anything that's opposite to your worldview. You can't even take a context in. You get me? If it contradicts your worldview, you instantly have to respond. And an intelligent person is stoic. An intelligent person doesn't respond to every single thing that they see or hear. You can't wait to respond. You have to respond that second. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu he said he promises Jannah to the person who can control the two vessels, the vessel as your mouth and the vessel and as your private parts. If you control those two things, he promised you Jannah. And in the Black community, we know very well there's a lack of control of both. We understand this. It doesn't make a difference if you want to hear it or not. That's just the truth. Y'all hearing me? So now, because you became Muslim now and you have those habits, they're deeply ingrained in you, and you hear these hadith, but what happens is that they turn into things that you hear, but you're not actually listening. You feel me? It's just something that you heard, but you're going to continue with your abhorrent behavior with the knowledge of that hadith and not implement it. And then you turn around as usual and continue to blame the entire world for your problems. But we have time, we have Allah, we have Quran, we have Sunnah. What is preventing us from implementing this stuff? It has to be something internal. It can't be external anymore. You get me? And so I'm going to share the link for anybody who wants to come on to this most important family meeting. So for Black men, particularly Black men, a lot of us, we talk about economics, and economics is important, 100%. And of course, at the top of the list for me is the keeping together of the Black family. That's important for me. You understand? And developing Black children and whatnot. However, this doesn't come like arbitrarily. Just because you want something doesn't mean you're going to get it. You understand? If you actually want something, these are things that you have to work for, and you have to make sacrifices and endeavor for. And a part of these sacrifices, Allah Himself is making it easy. Like, how easy is it just not to talk? You understand? How easy is it not to respond? How easy is it not to put your opinion when you don't have to? You get me? These are easy things. But with Black people, because we have been stripped of anything that resembles power, we feel that our power lies in the things that we say. Like, we can talk our reality into existence because we've been stripped of getting economic independence, stripped of education, stripped of dignity. You understand? We've been stripped of these things. So your power now lies in one-upping people and whatchamacallit, dissing people, all that kind of stuff. You see like some sort of like backwards type of thinking, backwards behavior. You get me? When the real power comes from Allah, and if you follow Allah's advice, then Allah He Himself will empower you. But some of y'all my day ones here. From my day ones, have you ever heard me disrespect a single elder on this channel? I've never done that. Not one. Disrespect? I can't do that. Even some elder Arabs, and sometimes I say some crazy stuff, and I want, but I can't. It's not in me. Because this right here will breed a culture that once one person does it, the other person feels brave enough to do it, and then they start spreading it, and on Day of Judgment, on Yom Al-Qiyamah, I'll be raised, and then Allah will ask me, why did you say this and why did you say that about this person who was older than you? You get me? We don't do that here. We don't call to that here. And you find that the Black people who do that, who practice this, they don't have a single, not one. And I challenge you just to ask them the next time you hear these dudes speaking about Siraj or the Nation or Khalid Yassin or Abdul Hakim Kuwait, ask them, just name one from amongst the elders of the Black people in the West that you respect. Watch them. You watch them. And mind you, Sheikh Tahir Wyatt is not an elder, okay? I love Sheikh Tahir, but even he knows he's not an elder. Even he knows. When I say elder, I mean people who have been Muslim for like donkey years. People in their 60s and 70s and 80s and whatnot. Y'all hearing me? People who have earned the stripes and made the mistakes and all that kind of stuff. Every last one of them made mistakes. Every last one of them. And they can tell you the benefit or the knowledge they learned from the mistakes that they made. And they done some good things. And they can tell you the knowledge that they learned from the good things as well. But these dudes, I'll give you an example, okay? One of these dudes, okay, a couple of years ago, Imam Siraj, he did something with Nation of Islam, some sort of fundraiser with Louis Farrakhan, okay? This person could not wait. Made a video. His name is Abu Abdullah. I don't know who Abu Abdullah is. I don't know Abu Abdullah. And I'm pretty sure most people don't know who Abu Abdullah is. Okay? But he could not wait. Okay? Made a video. Siraj Wahaj sells out. Sell out. Siraj Wahaj. Sell out? Even the rhetoric that these guys use is dumb. I'm sell out? Sell out for doing a fundraiser with Louis Farrakhan. That's a sellout now? That necessitates selling out. So wait a second. Those same people who are telling you that Saudi Arabia is the best Muslim country in the world, right? They're the same people, mind you. Okay? I love Saudi too. Don't get it twisted. I lived there for 9 years. I love Saudi. But Saudi Arabia today is not the same Saudi Arabia that I lived in. Y'all hearing me? Okay? Those same people want to tell you that bring all these stars and whatnot and these whatchamacallit, pop stars in the country. That's not selling out. Like what constitutes this? Like anything that constitutes a sellout nowadays. Anything. You understand? Back in the day, you know what selling out was? Selling out was somebody who actually took money from the authorities in order to out the black community or the Muslims. That was a sellout. Selling out back in the day, what were people like whatchamacallit? Al Sharpton admitted FBI spook, took money from the FBI. Nobody knew. In order to spy on black people. You understand? Those were considered sellouts. So if you do a fundraiser with Farrakhan and that's considered selling out, then what about working for, the white supremacist who gives you paychecks every single week to build their society? That's not selling out? That's not selling out. Y'all are silly, man. Like absolutely silly. Just any old rhetoric some word that you learned yesterday, you spew it out, and then that spreads, and all these ignorant Negroes start spreading what you're saying all over the world, and you do it without fear or anything, no fear of Allah, nothing, right? How many of y'all called Imam Siraj about the Farrakhan thing? When Tahir Wyatt, Sheikh Tahir Wyatt, went on to do that dawah thing with the Nation of Islam, so many of you Negroes lost your natural minds. Who gave you this narrative that we have to hate other black people? Who gave that to you? Who did that? So when Habib Nurmagomedov, the MMA fighter, right? When Habib Nurmagomedov does a fundraiser with Dustin Poirier, not Muslim. He's not Muslim. He's a kafir, okay? Complete. Don't believe in Allah, nothing, tatted up everything. Okay? When he does a fundraiser with him, it's a fundraiser. But when Imam Suraj does a fundraiser for Farrakhan, it's selling out. You see what I'm saying? Some of y'all just shouldn't be speaking because you don't know what you're talking about. You just don't know what you're talking about. And you don't have an elder between any of you that you respect. But you sure as hell are brave enough to speak about black people and black elders like they ain't done nothing. You understand? We have our own history here in the West. We don't need help from other people groups to help us tell our history. Y'all are tripping. Y'all are straight tripping. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How
Can
you
you hear
doing,
me good?
Abdullah?
My internet trips out sometimes.
I can hear you fine, Abdullah. Kayfak, how are you doing?
Say it again.
Kayfak, how are you? How are you?
Yeah, my internet's tripping out. I can barely hear you.
We can hear you fine. Go
had,
ahead. Speak, Shay.
Okay, yeah. I just had just one or two points that I wanted to bring up in regards to what you had said maybe 5 minutes ago or so. Some of the problems that us as black people we have in the States.
I think we lost a brother. We lost a brother. His internet is tripping out. Yes, we'll wait for him, inshallah. So I'm leaving a link in the description if anybody wants to come in and drop their thoughts. Even our detractors are more than welcome to come and express their opinions. No problem. Tafadal Sheikh, go ahead. Go ahead.
On my own.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna try to be quick. You know how it goes. It's good to talk to you and see you too, brother. I just wanted to say, when it comes to the brothers, in the States, one of the big problems that I see, like you said, is the disdain that it seems that we have for one another, whether it be older brothers or whether it be brothers in the same age group, but maybe they're just on two different wavelengths. It seems that we have this animosity that's so easily created between one another. And my father, he had me read a book back when I was in high school, or rather, it was like an article, and it was called the Willie Lynch letter. And I know that it's debated as to whether Willie Lynch was actually an individual who
Yeah, I think we lost him again. He was talking about to Willie Lynch, and basically, for those who don't know Willie Lynch, it's actually a fictional story, but it is based. But even though it's a fictional story, it has a lot of truth to it. So Willie Lynch is this fictional character in slavery, and he's basically teaching the American slave owners how to control their slaves, right? And he says that what you got to do is you got to separate the slaves by color, so the darker slaves against the lighter slaves, and the house slaves against the field slaves, and you got to separate. You got to like basically create animosity with them on every possible point that you possibly can, And on top of that, when they get out of line, you can't just allow them. Actually, I'll get you something that's based in reality, right? This is, even though the Willie Lynch story itself is fictional, it is based in reality. How do I know? Because again, I have the book right here, right? I have the book right here. So let me just get you something, right? Because I didn't know the brother was going to bring that up, but I'm going to show you something. right? And you guys are gonna trip. 1 second. Okay, so like, subscribe, share. Let me leave the link. Anybody who wants to join me tonight, this is an important topic. Please hop in the comments. Like, subscribe, share. Hit me up on Patreon. Okay. So you guys are gonna trip when you hear this one. 1 second, y'all. Where did I find it? Ah, there it is. Okay. So in the Willie Lynch story, the fictional story, right? Willie Lynch advises the slave masters that when the slaves get out of line, you have to punish them publicly and severely. Okay. That's what Willie Lynch, the fictional character, said. Okay. Now, we're going to look at this book. They Were Her Property, White Women as Slave Owners in the American South. And we're going to look in the reality. What happened? What really happened? And you tell me if this is far from the Willie Lynch story. Okay. So I'm reading directly. Okay. I don't have my glasses. So excuse my whatchamacallit, my crappy reading if it's a little bit slow because I don't have my glasses on. Right. But check this out. Cecilia recognized that women were capable of possessing and exercising the power to make enslaved people submit their will, and she instructed them to mete out punishment themselves. She advised, listen, this is a real story now. Never scold when a servant neglects his duty, but always punish him, no matter how mildly, for maltreatment is the best. Severity hardens them, but be firm in this, but that no neglect go unpunished. No neglect go unpunished. Now, in our culture, in Black culture, we are used to our parents getting the twitch. Most Black people know what I'm talking about when I say get the twitch. For those of you who are not Black and don't know, you don't know what a twitch is. The twitch is a branch from a tree that the child has to go get in order for the parents to beat that child with that branch. Most Black people know about the belt. Most Black people know about the cord, okay? The electrical cord. The question is, where did we learn all these behaviors? Did it come across Africa with us? Or is this something that we learned from our 500-year-old enemy? How to torture each other in order to discipline each other. This is not Willie Lynch. This is a white woman advising white women how to keep your slaves in line. You understand? Do we not, as Black people, do the same thing? Let me tell you something. All my kids, right? Maybe I hit my kids. Out of all of them, I can count the times with one hand. All of them put together, I actually beat my kids. My kids, as a Black man, okay? But my father, my father put the brakes on me. You understand? He put the brakes on me. My aunties, my grandmother, they would not even think twice about the belt, about the cord. Y'all hearing me? But why? Why is it that I chose a different path? It's because I read about the Prophet Muhammad, how he was with children. So I decided to implement that. You get me? But with Black people, it's the first option. It's not the last option. Black people, when your kids get out of line, it's your first option. Where do you think you learned that behavior? Yeah, Salam. You think this is jokes? So in order to break that cycle, you are the one who have to make a conscious decision to break that cycle. You are the ones who have to decide, okay, love my parents, love my grandparents and everything like that, but I'm Muslim now, and these cycles, certain cycles got to be broken. They got to be broken. You have to make that decision. Every black person know about licks. Which black person don't know about licks? You know what I'm saying? Which black person don't know about that? We all know about that. But that's not something that's something that we learned from. I'm sorry, we learned it from our enemy. We learned it from our enemy, and we think it's good. We think it's good child rearing. You get me? We think that's some outstanding parenting. Let me continue reading this. Okay. Never let your servant say to you, I forgot it. How familiar does this sound? I can remember all the times I told my dad I forgot. Never let your servant say to you, I forgot it. Finally, let regularity mark every action. And the consequence will be that everything will be done in its right place and in its right time, and the comforts and happiness of the family will be secured. Our slave masters, our former slave masters, they had a system that they learned and they taught about breaking the slave. Okay, you got to break the slave. And how did they break their slaves? Okay, right before they reach puberty, they would separate. If the parents were still around, they would separate the slaves from the parents. Okay, you're talking about 8 or 9 years old. Okay, they start putting them to work. Okay, the moment the slave complained, there would be no questions asked. Okay, they would get whipped. Most of the times from either an overseer or another slave to order another slave to whip this child. Okay. They would be beaten. They would be beaten and told to be quiet. You get me? This was for the slave. Does any of this sound familiar at all? And some of the extreme, they're all extreme. All these devils were extreme anyway. I'm sorry to say it like that, but it's true. All right, they're very extreme. They would like abuse these children, the slaves, like abuse them. You get me? Until the slaves became almost like mindless robots, and that's why when y'all start talking like this, mocking the slaves, that's where this comes from. That's where this comes from. Because they didn't have a mind of their own. Their entire existence, all they knew is that if they didn't listen to master, they were going to get tortured. You should see some of these stories. Crazy stories. Insane stories. One story I read, one of these slaves, slave master, assaults her. Okay, she gets pregnant from the assault, and the slave master's wife gets pregnant from the assault. Okay, and the slave knew, and she's one of her interview was actually recorded, right? The slave master's wife knew what would happen to the slave, both the slave master, so the slave master's wife and the slave, they give birth around the same time. Guess who has to be a wet nurse to both the children? Y'all think it's jokes. Guess who had to be a wet nurse to both the children? So this is what we come from. All this Hotep nonsense that you guys are into, and what you call it, the black man is king, and the black people are this and black people are that. This is where we come. This is the reality of where we come from. That's why black society is tore up and broken, because it was tore up and broken on purpose, and you ain't gonna fix it with pretend speech. Y'all feel me? You're not going to fix it with imaginary speech. You know, it's some tripping. This is so crazy, man. So for black men, those elders who paved the path for you to be Muslim today, you don't know what they had to go through. You have no clue. You don't know what they had to go through to be Muslim in the 70s and the 80s and whatnot, when nobody was Muslim. And they were looked at as a cult. And the U.S. government, and you can go read the FBI files and what they say about black Muslims and all kind of stuff. You don't know nothing about that. You don't know how the whatchamacallit, the immigrant community, when they came, they explicitly tried to be white in order to benefit off the black struggle. You don't know nothing about that. And those people were still Muslim at that time. Imagine your Muslim brother, Arab or whatever it is, coming from wherever he come from in the Middle East, the subcontinent of India, where he come from, benefit off of your black struggle. You're Muslim still struggling in the West, but he gets all the benefits you never could get, like never. Okay. And on top of that, the children of that black man's generation turn around and spit in the face of that black man who had to go through all of that in order for you to practice your Islam today. Imam Siraj Hajj is a sellout. You are sick. You're sick. You're sick people. I'm sorry to say it like that. What do you want? What else you want me to say? Where's your resume of work in the community? Where is it? Like, what have you studied? Like, where have you studied? Where's your PhD? Which scholars have you sat with? Imam Sheikh Bilal Phillips and Imam Sheikh Del Hakim Quick, both of them studied under Albani. Can you say that? Can you say that I studied with Sheikh Albani? Then who are you? Like, silly people, man. Silly people. Silly. Sheikh Tahir, PhD from University of Medina. PhD. You know what a PhD is? You know what hours and hours and hours and hours of work is? It's not like y'all. You know what I mean? Imagine putting 15,000 hours of work into one subject just to master it. Then what is a PhD then? You feel me? PhD does a dawah session, and it was like a legit dawah. So I heard the thing. It was like legit dawah. It's dawah. My criticism of Sheikh Tahir's dawah session on that show that he did on the Nation of Islam radio. My criticism was that he used too much Arabic jargon. I was like, why is he using so much Arabic? They don't understand all this Arabic stuff. That was what I was saying, right? It's too much Arabic. You're trying to call the Nation of Islam to Islam, right? They allowed the Sheikh to go on their platform to preach Islam freely. And who was it that gave him the most work? Who was it? And then you wonder why you have no success as a black man in your community. You don't have to look any further than the mirror. You don't have to look any further than that. Every single success story that we have in the black community, always some boneheaded Negro ready to destroy it, and a whole bunch of boneheaded Negroes coming right behind them like the rats in the Pied Piper. Just talk. You're very good at talking. Incredible talkers. Incredible. When it comes down to work, the people who actually done the work, like they done the work. They have the battle scars, the degrees, the PhDs, the resume. They have all that long resume. They have it. And here you come with clips and sound bites calling these elders sellouts. So what, Dawud did? Sellout? Abu Sama Dhahabi? Sellout? Blau Phillips? Sellout? Dal Hakim Kut? Sellout? Suraj Rahat? Sellout? Khalid Yassin? Sellout? Who was your elder? It had to be Shaitan, and the only one old enough for you to follow. Got to be Shaitan. Who's your elder? Y'all are silly. You don't know what a sellout is. That's the problem. You just heard the word yesterday, and it just rolls off your tongue easily. Sell out, sell out, sell out. This one sell out. That one sell out. This one he sold out. He sold out. What? Like, what is you saying, man? When you start showing me their work with the FBI and the CIA and whatever, and their paychecks and from the government to come and destroy the black community and the Muslim community, whatever, we can talk. But as long as you're taking checks from the enemy and the enemy's businesses, at the enemy's industries, paying the taxes for the enemy to the enemy so that they can build schools in the enemy's neighborhoods, don't tell me about no sellout. You don't know what a sellout is. Where's your autonomy? Where's your independence? You want to talk about sellout? You tripping. Straight tripping. I'm going to leave the link. If anybody wants to join. But like I said, family, listening is done with your ears, not your mouth. With black people, we really don't understand the concept of civil discourse. You understand? Everybody has to have my opinion. If they don't have my opinion, then I'm going to cut them off. Like the other day, somebody on Facebook was like, I'm not going to engage with you anymore on Facebook. Do you know why they say stuff like that? Because they're trying to hurt your feelings. You get it? They're trying to make you feel away, right? So because they're on Facebook and they're trying to get some get back, right? They got to say, oh, I'm going to block you. I'm not gonna watch your videos. I'm not they're trying to make you feel pain. You see what I'm saying? Are people like that about anything? Even for me, it's better. Like, it shows me what you're about then. You see what I'm saying? When people start talking like that, because me, if you send me something, I'll listen to it and I'll let you know what I'm thinking. You know what I'm saying? But I have never ever just block a Muslim for just like for the sake of blocking them because I have a difference of opinion. I'm not going to talk to them for like what sunnah is that? You know, you see, you get me? You see what I'm saying? That's incredibly effeminate. This is some woman stuff going on here. Women do that kind of stuff. You feel me? Women and children. I'm sorry. At least with children, you know, when a 6-year-old goes, I'm not your friend anymore, and I'm not gonna tell you're not my best friend. When a 6-year-old does that, you know, at least an hour later, they're back for best friends again, right? But you're talking about grown people doing this. I'm gonna unfriend you. Like this is like grown adults with kids and everything. They doing this with Islam and everything. Doing this. I'm like, cool. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not breaking my heart. I'm sorry. Like I don't know you. Like I don't know you. This is Facebook. I don't. What do you want me to say to that? You feel me? If I listen, I'm a type of person like, yeah, I value my time. Okay. If I have given my time, which I believe is a blessing from Allah, number one, and I have blessed you with some of my time as a response to anything that you said, whether it's positive, negative, whatever it is, you should be thankful. You see what I'm saying? You should be like, oh, thank you, bro. Because I rarely respond to anything on social, like rarely. It's like every once in a while. And if you didn't like my response, and your response to my response is to block me, you're doing me a favor, right? I'm like, what? I'm thinking to myself, well, how the heck did I get caught up with a low life like you, anyways? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy, man. It's like the times that we live in is just nuts. This wouldn't have happened 30 years ago. You're crazy. This is insane. It's insane. Anyways, brothers and sisters, I'm not sure if anybody else wants to come on. I left the link so many times, but I thought it was an important topic. But alhamdulillah, I would like to thank everybody who participated in the comments, everybody who watched this live and everything like that. Please like, please subscribe, please share. Please hit me up on Patreon. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here. Subhanaka bihamdik, hashala ant, wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.